Everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and today we're going to do a neurodivergent kitchen cleaning video. You're going to see my steps, how I trick myself into doing stuff so that I don't get overwhelmed, and hopefully ways to help you if you happen to be neurodivergent and sometimes these tasks can be overwhelming. I have an overwhelming kitchen right now, but I know where to start after decades of experience of doing this, and I thought I would just go ahead and share what I do when I'm looking at a kitchen that is a little crazy and where to start and sort of break it down into steps to try to make it a little easier. And yeah, I guess that's it. So if you have your own work to do, go ahead and put me on a phone somewhere and just sort of try to get some of your own work done while you hear these tips and tricks. And I think they call it body doubling. Even if I'm not there with you, sometimes it can be helpful to just be having somebody with you while you're trying to clean. So anyway, let's go ahead and show you the state of my kitchen and where I'm going to start to get everything taken care of without getting overwhelmed. Vegan prepper. Vegan prepper. After a very busy day of cooking and taking things to Elliot's school, I took 5 9x13 dishes of food for an event that he had, and just it was an incredibly busy day. I was barely home. I was driving everywhere. And so I have a little bit of a mess of a kitchen. Thankfully, it's not nearly as bad as it could be because I do generally sort of stay on top of things, but this is kind of what we're looking at and I need to get this taken care of today. And so even still, no matter how overwhelming it is, I start with the same kinds of things. And so the first thing that I always look at, there's 2 categories I look at first before I even get started. That is things that I can take care of and things that I must take care of or have to take care of before I can do dishes. So what I can take care of to make my life a little easier is, number 1, putting away things that don't belong, things that are not dishes that I can just put away so that I can get them out of my way. So for me, that will be this bottle of olive oil right here and also my toaster over there. And so once I get those put away, I can come back and look at the things that I have to do in order to get started on the dishes. Another reason it's good to start with a couple of quick and easy things is that it gets you started and it gives you a little dopamine hit and you're like, I can do things, and then you can keep going. All right, most of you probably don't need this explained to you, but just in case you do, here we go. The dish strainer. It's an amazing thing that I have in my kitchen. It needs to get emptied before I start anything, whether I do dishes or empty the dishwasher, whatever task I'm doing here surrounding dishes, this thing needs to get emptied as long as the dishes on it are dry. So obviously it's for hand wash dishes, but it's also for dishes that you can just sort of rinse and throw over there like a measuring spoon. If I was just measuring cinnamon or something, I'll just rinse it and put it over here and not make it fully get washed before it goes back into the drawer. But also emptying the dishwasher, sometimes things are not fully dry, so they come over here to dry. So this needs to get emptied in order to make room for new things to go on top of it, but also because anything on here that's already dry will just get wet again if you put wet stuff on top of it, so it needs to be emptied. So number 1, empty the dish strainer. That's the number 1 task you need to do if you have this in your kitchen. And I just tie it to emptying the dishwasher or starting any other hand wash dish project. So it just kind of constantly gets emptied throughout the day. The other thing is, I will say, is another thing I have to do that is not a normal task, but I'll point it out just because this is the kind of stuff that can trip us up. If you look for the things that you need to do in order to complete your task. So for instance, this is some organic decaf. I made a giant, I have one of those big percolators. It's like a 45 cup coffee maker. I had a sourdough making class in my home over the weekend, and I made a giant percolator of this organic decaf for everyone. So this needs to go out into the yard to get composted before I can then put this and the plate it's sitting on into the dishwasher. So if I were in the middle of my task and I suddenly had to do this, this is the kind of thing that could derail me as kind of a neurodivergent person. So again, just sort of over the years, I've learned to identify everything that I need to take care of before I have to start. If that's overwhelming, that's fine. Don't think about it. If you find yourself in the middle of doing this task and you come across something that you haven't done yet that you kind of need to do in order to complete, just forget it and complete everything that's important to complete and then do this at the end. And then that way, just don't let yourself get derailed or distracted by these kinds of tasks if you didn't happen to see them beforehand. But anyway, I've talked too long about this and I will run out and throw this into the yard. Okay, both of those jobs are done now, so I can really get started. I don't know how things work in your kitchen, but in my kitchen, there's two categories of dishes. Number one being hand wash dishes, number two being dishwasher dishes. And so obviously hand wash dishes are the ones that I wash by hand, dishwasher dishes are the ones that go in the dishwasher. And so now that I have emptied the dish drainer and I'm getting ready to actually start the tasks that I have before me, the next thing that I'm going to do is separate hand wash dishes from dishwasher dishes in my kitchen. And I'll show you kind of how I do that. Over here by my sink is the place for hand wash dishes. And it's so funny, just starting this video, I've never really realized the reason. And it just finally occurred to me when I was making this video. It's because here is where I hand wash the dishes, right? So I'm pulling out anything that's not a hand wash dish because people will put stuff over here. I guess they don't really realize what my system is. And so stuff that can go in the dishwasher will get put over here. But then dishwasher dishes always go on the counter. And I finally realized it's because this is where I load the dishwasher from. So I started doing that without really fully realizing it. And yeah, that's why. So this is a hand wash dish. It will go back over in my pile. The straw on Sage's cup is a hand wash dish. I'll put that over into the hand wash pile. And this cookie sheet is a hand wash dish. That will go over there. And so basically I'll just quickly do that, although I think that that's actually it. And those things will go over in the hand wash pile. And then the next thing that I will do is empty the dishwasher. I lied. Emptying the dishwasher is not next. Setting up hand wash dishes is what's next. That is why I do the sort before I empty the dishwasher, because my very next step is to actually get myself set up for the hand washing. So because here, for instance, this spoon has dried up rice on it. So this needs to soak. There's a couple things over here that are gonna need to actually soak a little bit. And so what I like to do is take whatever hand wash dish I need to wash. So for instance, this big pot yesterday, I made 2 triple batches of my Mexican rice for that thing at Elliot's school. So I've got so many dishes to do. But anyway, what I will do is start filling this with hot water and go ahead and toss in my hand wash dishes so that by the time I'm finished emptying the dishwasher, anything that needed to be soaked will be all soaked and ready to wash. And then that way, I can just keep moving. When I've got my momentum, I want to keep moving. I don't want obstacles to stop me. So you'll see a lot of my process is about eliminating obstacles. And so like taking care of the compost beforehand, but also getting this set up so that it's just ready for me when I'm done with the dishwasher is kind of removing another obstacle, because this needing to soak is another thing that's like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'll soak that, and then I'll walk away and I'll forget about it, and I'll no longer be in the mode of cleaning dishes, and then that will kind of derail me from the kitchen cleaning thing. So yeah, that's why this is next, and then I can just move straight into this as soon as the dishes are out of the dishwasher. Hand wash dishes are soaking. Dish drainer is empty. Make sure there's at least a little bit of a clear spot on the counter for emptying the dishwasher if you need that. So for me, I do need that because when my dishwasher opens, I don't have access to my cabinets, which have a little bit of smoothie on them. I will take care of that at the end. Okay, that's coming. The cleaning part is coming. But anyway, we'll empty the dishwasher and get everything out of here that needs to get out of here. And remember, because now we have an empty dish drainer, anything that's wet out of here will just go straight onto the empty dish drainer. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to stop. You don't have to wonder, how am I putting this away since it's wet? You're not putting it away quite yet. It's going over here to dry, okay? So we're removing obstacles and making sure that we don't get distracted while we're doing this task. It is not at all my goal to be condescending in any of this because I'm like really over explaining it. So some of you might be like, you're talking to us like we're stupid. That is not what I'm doing. probably anybody who is honestly neurodivergent watching this is going, oh yeah, that's good. Like they're hearing things that they've never heard before. This is how I have figured out how to make this work for me so that I don't get distracted and I can move seamlessly from one thing to the next. Again, without obstacles, without anything that stops me or impedes my progress. And so this is how I have adapted. I'm making this video, I don't know, it's a little nerve-wracking because I'm a little afraid of showing how much help I need. But also, I want to show that it is possible to live and function in a clean and organized space and do things as a neurodivergent person. It is possible to live a full and functional life. And so you just have to figure out what works for you. This is what works for me. And hopefully it helps you out. Water in the lid. Shake it off. Shake it off, shake it off. And that just goes over here. There you go. See? We don't have to stop for anything. I also unload the bottom tier first. And that is because oftentimes up at the top, I don't think, oh yeah, here's one. Stuff will just have like a little pool of water in it, you know, and it's possible that that can spill over onto the stuff on the bottom as you pull this out, making the stuff on the bottom wet, which is annoying. So I unload the bottom first, then the top. Okay, dishwasher's empty, and so now it's time to load all this stuff in there. Oh, and also this is all our Christmas decorations, by the way. We're still decorating, so that's what all that is. I will separate out my cutlery first. I load that first before I load anything else. It just helps me to sort of section stuff out based on where I load it into my dishwasher. And so like we have kind of utensil type stuff, measuring spoons, those kind of get loaded separately from my main silverware. And so for instance, this I will scrape off before I put it in, you know, so I'm not putting in all these big solid food chunks. This, because it's a dough, it's from all that food I made yesterday, like all my serving utensils right there for Elliot's school. And so this, along with these two things, I will quickly soak. Like I'm just gonna quickly throw a little bit of water in here. So for the most part, I don't pre-rinse or pre-wash my dishes, but I have learned over the years, certain things just will not come off. Oh wait, that's coming off very easily. Oh, you know what? I bet you it's because it's masa and not flour. I made tamale pie. It was so good. And so I did a layer of masa over the top. But these things, especially for whatever reason, tomato products, so like oats, will not wash off in the dishwasher. Neither will egg, which is of course not a problem that I face anymore, but it is something that I observed back when we were eating eggs. And then avocado is another one. It will absolutely not wash off in the dishwasher. So things like oats, anything with a chia seed, avocado, and tomato products need to be rinsed before they go in. At least in my experience, tomato products, they will wash off the original dish, but then end up on everything else. Oats will not wash off. Avocado will just turn into a black shellac that like they should build houses with. It is so strong, you can't get it off. So those are things that I will wash off completely before I put in the dishwasher, but I do not do things like this. So I know this is kind of a tomato product, but it's, I don't know. It's just a little different from like a fully coated thing. I don't know how to explain it. Like if it was a pile of spaghetti sauce, that would absolutely get washed off. But dishwasher detergent does better when it has at least a little bit of food to grab onto to wash off. And so I won't 100% rinse everything clean. But those certain things I do take care of. I'm gonna go ahead and load this up. Okay, here is what it looks like now. Everything is loaded up and ready to go. And so I just have to go ahead and run that and then get onto the hand wash dishes. But actually in between that, we're gonna have lunch. I actually grabbed some Chipotle. In between the last take and this one, I actually attended a funeral. So it was a woman and one of my spiritual mentors, just absolutely incredible, vibrant woman of God. We were instructed to wear red to her funeral. So that's what we did. And so it was just a party, basically. It was wonderful. It was sad. It was wonderful. And I'm bringing that up, not so that you can focus on me and my sadness or anything that I've been through, but just to sort of point out that life keeps happening. It does not stop. There's no breaks. And we still do kind of need to function even when life goes crazy. But once you have a very well established routine of like the way that you do a thing, the order in which you do it, because I mentioned that getting interrupted is difficult because you can get interrupted and then you get distracted, and it's hard to get back to where you were. But if you know kind of your order of operations and you kind of have that in, and it's built into you to where it's actually almost like in your body, like you don't have to consciously think every single time. Like I'm spelling it out consciously for you in this video, but this is kind of a routine that I've developed over time. And making the video, I'm realizing the steps and how, for instance, finishing all the dishwasher stuff, how much it clears the kitchen. That gives me another little dopamine hit, like, like I'm so close. I can go ahead and finish the hand wash dishes. Like I feel motivated to continue because I've already gotten this far, right? But also I had to leave, like I said, and go attend that funeral. And I came back, and because I know my process, I was able to jump right back into where I was. It's all very organized and thought out and laid out. So that is kind of my hope and prayer for you, any kind of neurodivergent person watching or anybody who needs this kind of help, to understand that, you know, this was not always the way that I was. I used to be not even close to this organized or put together. And I've actually been accused at times of not being neurodivergent because people don't see the signs of basically a life that's falling apart. And it's like, no, I've spent decades figuring these things out and figuring out how to function. And that's very important to me. So anyway, it's important to me that my family has a nice home and all of that. So I'm going to finish. I'm going to go ahead and just load the soap in this and start it. And then my daughter and I are just going to eat some Chipotle because I was like, you know what? Mama needs a break. So we're going to have a little Chipotle, and then I'm going to come right back in here and do those hand wash dishes, and I will be finished. This is my favorite dishwasher detergent, though, I will say. It's basically zero waste. There's no plastic in any of the packaging. It comes in cardboard, and there's no microplastics, and it actually works very well. I've been using this for at least 2 or 3 years now, and I just absolutely love it. So very good, very comparable, I think, in price to things like Cascade or other brands, as long as you get it through the website. I will link their website down below. I am not affiliated at all with them, no contract whatsoever. I just love them, and this is what I use. Right, so enough time has passed that the stuff on the dish rack was actually dry. So I just checked it before I started the hand wash dishes, and now I'm getting on that, and I'll show you my next step. Once I finish this pot, and it'll take me about 2 minutes to wash all of those dishes. Really, it's very fast. I'll show you kind of how I continue through all of it, since I have, you know, more than one thing to do. All right, it's been about 3 minutes. And so I've gotten so far most of that wash. It's very fast as long as stuff gets soaked. And then a lot of stuff doesn't need to get soaked. Like that cutting board was totally fine. It doesn't need to get soaked. I just washed it. And so another thing I wanted to point out is I like to have my oven at the lowest temperature for certain items. I don't do this every time, but like I have this cookie sheet right here that has a little roll around the edge. And so there's this place where water can collect. And just sticking it on the drying rack, it doesn't dry well. It'll take absolutely forever. And then you shake it out and the water will still be coming out from underneath that roll. So for certain things like that, I like to dry them inside of my oven just at the lowest temperature. It only takes a few minutes and they will be bone dry. I'll do the same thing with this pot lid. It has another kind of similar thing where it's got this really deep space in between the glass and the metal. And so to really fully dry that out, I'll let that sit in the oven just at the lowest temperature for a little while, and then that will take care of it. So water is very important to me. I live in the desert, and I do my absolute best to conserve it as much as possible. So I'm going to rinse this pot out. And when I rinse out this pot, which I just cleaned, that water will go into here, and that will be the water that becomes the soaking water for the next pot that I need to soak. But also now while that is soaking, I will move on and start, like, I'll wash all my bags. I'll probably wash these lids. And so I'm always moving forward. Like I'm always taking myself to that next step. If at this point, though, I find myself feeling overwhelmed or I feel just done, I need to get out of here or whatever, that's totally fine. I try to respect myself, honestly. Like I used to be, gosh, I used to be like a drill sergeant to myself. It'd be kind of really mean. I've learned that it is okay to actually take a break if you feel like you need a break. And it is okay to rest, even if the rest that you need is just mental. But I have instituted a couple of tricks that help me out with that too, that if you get to this point and you're overwhelmed, you still have some hand wash dishes that you need to do, especially pots and pans. I institute a rule where I tell myself that every single time I go into my kitchen, I will wash one hand wash dish. So I'm in my kitchen a lot, or every time I walk over, I'll wash my hands and be like, oh, okay, let me grab something and I'll quickly wash it. Like I said, as long as you have stuff already soaking, it'll go so fast. Like, it's kind of incredible how quickly it goes. It feels more overwhelming than it actually is. And I think also the more you complete these tasks and the more you learn that, the easier it is to move forward. Because you know, like, even if you feel a bit overwhelmed, you're like, gosh, it'll take me 3 minutes to wash those dishes. Let me just wash those dishes. And it helps you get through it. So I'm going to continue my process. This is how I wash my bags. I just basically get them flat. There's a couple drops of soap in the bag already, and I will just wash. I've already wiped the counter dry, and so I'm going to wash the inside like this. Sorry if I'm not getting good angles. And then I flip it over. Obviously, normally I'm doing this with 2 hands, and I wash the other side, and then I wash this side, the one that's up. Then what I'll do is I will pick up the whole thing and kind of just holding it in my hand, I'll sort of wash the other side with soap. Then it just goes over into that little strainer until I'm ready to rinse. And so if I have like a pile of, 5 or 6 bags, this is how I get through them. All right, here is my drying setup for the bags. When I have more than 2, I like to set this up. I use a little wide mouth pint jar. And then some of these kitchen spoons are just these Korean extra long spoons I have. So I have several of them over there. I love them. They're my favorite kitchen spoon. And if I only have 1 or 2 bags, I'll usually hang them off of these utensils. But when I have more than that, I go ahead and pull this out. I know that there are companies out there that make something that is specifically for drying bags. And if you like that, that's awesome. Go ahead and use that. But I'd rather not have something that takes up space in my kitchen that has only one kind of random function, and that's kind of like a random thing, you know what I mean? There is plenty of stuff in the kitchen that serves only one function, but like it's more useful than that, if that makes sense. So I just sort of make it from what I have. If you have extra long, Chinese chopsticks or cooking chopsticks or whatever, that could also work. But I just use my favorite kitchen spoons. I use them for everything. And I also use them for this. I can link them down below if anybody's interested in going to see those. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get these set up, and then I am almost finished. All right, so the cast iron, I just went ahead and washed with only water, and then I heated it up on the stove until it was dry. I do always do that, especially with this particular pan. This is actually the lid to one of my Dutch ovens, and there are so many little random nooks and crannies that I want to make sure it is 100% dry before I put it away. And so now that it's warm, I'll drizzle just a tiny bit of oil in, and I'm not sure that this is even the right way to do it, but I like to sort of put the oil in while the pan is hot. If somebody out there is screeching about why I shouldn't do it, please let me know in the comments below. But for now, I feel like it, houses 2 birds with 1 nest in that I'm getting it seasoned while the pan is hot, because normally you're supposed to like heat the pan up to get the seasoning, and then you're supposed to let it cool it down like before you put it away. So just while it's hot, I just go ahead and quickly wipe around with a paper towel and a little bit of oil, and then I let it cool and it's ready to get put away. All right, while everything is cooling and I'm waiting to be able to put it away before I can go through and do the final clean, spraying my counters, scrubbing my sink, spraying my stove down and cleaning that, I will go ahead and send my robot vac through the kitchen. So what I have done here, because as much as I love my little robot vac here, he is not the best with edges. So I need to go ahead and sweep the edges out. So I just sort of stand in the middle of my kitchen and go in a little U, and all I do is sweep the stuff that's under the counters out into the middle. And then I go ahead and just send him in, and he will take care of the rest. All right, my little shark vac is done. So I've moved the bags and the bread that are normally on my counter over to here. And so now everything is ready to start getting actually cleaned. Wipe down counters, scrub sink, clear off the stove, and then I will genuinely be essentially finished in this kitchen. There's always a few extra things that can be done, but you know, all of the most important basics will be covered, and that will be enough for me. First, I just sort of use a little cloth. I have a special subcategory of my cleaning cloths that are my kitchen cloths, and that's what these are. They only ever get used in the kitchen. And so I'm just sort of going to go back and forth on the counter in kind of an S shape across the whole thing and catch any crumbs that are there. This is sort of wiping down before I actually start cleaning the surface. All right, I washed the counter with foaming liquid Castile soap. I just use a combination of Castile soap and water over there in my little foaming hand soap dispenser. And that's what I use to wash the counters because I just, you know, I need bread here. I roll food out. I do so much food prep here that I want it to be all natural and non-toxic and all of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just sort of wash it down now, just with that same cloth, and get that done. I'm gonna repeat the process on my other counters as well. Once the initial pass is finished, I just go in with a rinsed cloth and I wipe it again. It usually takes 1-2 rinses for it to be done. It doesn't really take that long, and it does really get the counter very clear. If you run into a little hard spot, like right here, I have a little hard spot, you just use a scraper. This came with my Pampered Chef bread pans, but you can use any kind of scraper. If you just look up counter scraper, kitchen scraper, you can find these online, or, you know, use an old credit card or something, and, you know, you can have that as your tool to remove hard stuff so that you don't have to ruin your nails. And I don't know, it's just easier. All right, so I do spray my stove down with an actual spray cleaner, and so this bottle, I'm actually using this cleaner in it. It's my favorite one. I have noticed over the years that the lemon verbena scent specifically seems to repel bugs of any kind. It's just I've noticed, for instance, like we've gotten ants a few times in the house, and if I had just cleaned that day and sprayed somewhere with this, they don't go wherever I sprayed this. There was one time years ago we actually ended up with roaches. It was so gross, but I noticed the same exact thing. This particular cleaner, whenever I sprayed it anywhere, the roaches wouldn't go into that area. But anyway, we got all those things taken care of, thank God. I'm just saying, I have noticed that it seems like bugs really don't like this. So I like to use this specific spray in different areas of the house. And so I will do the stove with it. But also, like for now, all I did was these front areas of my counter. So every now and then, like when I pull the appliances out and I clean everything behind, you know, everything like behind the Instant Pot and all that, I will actually use this cleaner to clean that part of the kitchen, because it's not so much coming in contact with food, but also because I believe it helps to repel bugs. So anyway, take it or leave it. It may or may not be true. It seems to be true, so I keep using it. So once this is sprayed down very carefully, like when I come over to the corner where I have some of these dishes, I'm spraying this way. I don't like spray from back here and get cleaner all over my dishes I have back here, okay? So you have to be careful of that. But now that that is soaking and getting ready for me to scrub, I'm gonna go ahead and use my Scrub Daddy and the pink stuff on my sink. So my sink is a little bit my nightmare. It's a very old ceramic sink that I believe the coating has worn off of. We have had it for probably at least 10 or 11 years. And when we got it, it was a used sink. So I cannot keep this thing looking shiny. Basically, every single time somebody comes over or I have company, or like I said, I taught that class this weekend, one of my jobs that morning was to scrub my sink so that it would look clean before people came, because it just doesn't ever look clean unless I clean it right before people come over. I have learned that a lot of this yellow is because our water is so ridiculously hard. It's the buildup of minerals. And so there's almost nothing that I could do to help that except for, you know, get a filter. And we are not in the position to get a whole home water filter. But what does help me keep it clean is just, you know, removing obstacles, right? Making it as easy as possible. I just use this pink stuff. The Scrub Daddy is great. So I just sort of squash it down. Actually, I usually get it wet first and get it wet. And then I swirl it inside of the container. I'm gonna see if I can do this, not really with one hand, just a second. So I swirl it inside the container and I get some onto my little guy here. And I come in here and I just start scrubbing. And it's just so easy. And almost always I can get the whole sink clean from just that one dip. I try to anyway. Okay, the sink is shiny, yay! And so now it's time to wipe the stove. But I did just have a thought. Another thing I've realized only because I've decided to make this video is the reason I do it in the order I do it, where I make sure I wipe down all my counters first, is that I use the same cloth for the entire job. So once I've done some rinsing over here too with some of the pink stuff in my cloth. And so the whole point of using Castile soap obviously is to avoid like chemicals on the surfaces where I prepare food. So like directly prepare food. And so that's why I do that. And so I'm gonna use this now to wipe my stove down, and then this will go into the laundry and I will be finished with kind of a surface clean of the kitchen. All right, here we go. It's essentially finished. Now I could still wipe down my cabinets. I could clean behind my appliances. I could do some other jobs. I could mop. I could wipe down the fridge and the stove and the dishwasher and kind of do some of those extraneous surface cleans. But for now, I'm happy to have my kitchen back to a beautifully functional state. I absolutely love this space in my home. It's not a Pinterest kitchen by any means, but it's mine and I love it. And so I'm gonna call it good. I'm gonna let myself rest and just let myself be finished. So just a couple things I'd like to leave you with before we go. If you made it this far, congratulations. This video got way longer than I expected. I don't know why. I don't expect my videos to get this long. But anyway, a timer is your friend, right? So this is another trick so you can take away the overwhelming sense of a seemingly endless task by giving yourself an end from the beginning to say, I am only going to work for 10 minutes or I'm only going to work for 15 minutes. And it is incredible. It's a very simple tip, a very simple trick, but it's a powerful one to really get you started, especially on a low motivation day or some day when you like almost completely run out of spoons, but like you still need to clean your kitchen. I'm not talking about literal spoons. If you know, you know, right? And so you need to clean your kitchen. You need to get something done. You've got to cook dinner. You need to have a pot. You need to have something. So do something for 10 minutes. I will say prioritizing the functionality of your kitchen is also like to go into something knowing what makes the space most functional. So for me, it's pots and pans. Like if I don't have time to do anything else, I will wash some pots and pans because that is what keeps the function of the kitchen going because of how much I cook from scratch. The other thing that I would like to say is over time, you're going to develop your own routines and your own systems. Really, all that this entire routine that you just saw was me solving problems over years of my life and recognizing that I would get in a hang up when it was time to do hand wash dishes and I'd have to soak and walk away. And that walking away was like the kiss of death to that job for me. And so recognizing and figuring out how can I keep it going so that I'm not stopping at all. And so maybe you don't have a problem with stopping. Everybody is different. Even everybody in the neurodivergent community is different. Recognize what are your hangups and come up with the solutions to fix those. So my system might not be what helps you or what works for you, or maybe you can take pieces of it and make your own beautiful thing. And eventually just have confidence that you do everything that you do for some reason. Like, it's so funny even making this video, like realizing the reason that I put the hand wash dishes there and the dishwasher dishes over here is because that's where they need to be for me to complete the job. And I couldn't have articulated that before. If somebody asked me, why do you separate your dishes? Or why do you do it like this? Or whatever. Anyway, so I don't want to make this outro too long and you'll develop confidence eventually to just the freedom. Like, I don't have to explain myself, and I don't mean that in a rude way. It's just like I can't always articulate why I do things the way that I do them, but there is always a reason, and I'm confident in that now, and I'm able to kind of be, you know, more freely just be myself. Even if somebody thinks that they're helping by suggesting something different, I am open to suggestions and new ideas. And I have tried some new things that I've liked, but for the most part, I end up usually sticking to the things that work for me. And yeah, you can do the same thing. So I hope that was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if any of the things that, you know, stood out for you as some of the best tips, or any tips that you might have that really are helpful to you. I might add them into my repertoire. And as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.